So even though I loved Harvard, I wanted to make sure that other people didn't get ahead. I do think one of the luxuries of being, kind of insanely successful is you ought to be able to admit, where you made mistakes. The company that beats us to the punch in cloud computing is not a computer company. It's this, basically retail e-commerce company. Paul and I had this unique insight about software. So being first, being early with software is very helpful. Even with our basic was preferred over what anyone else was doing. And so I felt there was an urgency that if I didn't drop out and really put time into Microsoft, we would fall behind, and maybe somebody else somewhere else understood what we did. Now, it turned out there really weren't other people who thought of software as deeply or as broadly as we do. Till Google comes along, which is much later, there isn't a company that's trying to hire as many smart people as possible and, putting tons of money into incremental compilation and high-speed optimization, the world's best compilers, all that stuff. We are, kind of unique. But there was a year there where I actually tried to get Microsoft going while I was still taking classes. I just wasn't satisfied with that. And so even though I loved Harvard, they teach you interesting things. There's a bunch of people around. Even late at night, you can sit and talk about whatever nonsensical topic is interesting. So I was in no hurry to leave, except that, this great insight, I wanted to make sure that other people didn't get ahead. Now, it turned out, maybe it wasn't that urgent, but hey, the sooner you get going, the better. And so we were, right there at the very beginning of the industry. I'm going to talk a lot about mistakes we made, how our management was perceived, or how, I didn't see the antitrust lawsuit coming. We had cases where competitors did new things, like Google comes in and does search, and totally dominates that. We have Apple that innovates across the hardware-software boundary in a brilliant way. We have Amazon, who not only does retailing, which we weren't jealous of, but surprisingly, the company that beats us to the punch in cloud computing is not IBM, Oracle, Intel, not a computer company. It's this, basically retail e-commerce company. Today, in the world of cloud computing, Amazon is still number one. Microsoft is a very close number two. I do think one of the luxuries of being kind of insanely successful is you ought to be able to admit, where you made mistakes and where you missed things coming. And the mistakes we made in building the company internationally, how we got ourselves into antitrust. We had a very engineering-centric culture. It was a very intense culture. Did that include all the people it could have? I had to evolve as a manager. I chose to stay and run the company much longer than most entrepreneurs, to where it was this actually, most valuable company in the world. From the founding of the company in 1975 until 2000, that was me in charge. And through luck and skill, we did pretty well. I'm super happy that the company, continues to do, so incredibly well.